obviously don't take on from that. We handle the settlement process from beginning to resolution and thereafter, and our goal is to basically help our clients get out of their problems and help them reestablish their lives. And primarily what we want to do is as a common sense approach, we sit down with you, listen to what your situation is, discuss what your goals are, what you want to get done. We take the information that you give us, your financials. We put together a written action plan that covers areas like your cash flow, net worth, what options would be available to you, possibly when any government programs that might be available. We'd look at the possible tax implications upon settlement. We look at your other debts besides your mortgages, credit cards, auto loans. You name it, we give you advice on that. And then for your mortgages, depending on how many properties, some people just have one, a lot of people have multiple properties. We give a specific action plan catered to each individual property. So our advice is we try to come at this from a very honest broker approach on this, to where we don't want to paint everybody with the same brush. But the reason why we started this business a few years back is we found that there was a lack of good information, and people wanted the answers up front. What can I do? What are my options? And how will it affect me? So they can make an educated choice for themselves and their families. And that's exactly what this tool does for us, the written action plan. But to get back to the mortgages, we go ahead and give you a very linear plan, A, B, C, D. Here's in order what we recommend you do. Here's the reasoning for it. If there's any additional costs, for sometimes some people get into an area where there's foreclosure defense and things of that needed, we give an estimate from what we see with the different attorneys that we work with, what the cost might be involved in that. And then along with that linear plan, A, B, C, D, we attach a timetable with the milestones to each of those steps. On average, our cases process on average about 8 months, but that does obviously alter greatly due to who the individual is, what they want to accomplish, what they're trying to do. Everyone's got their own goals and objectives. But on average, we are about 8 months. And we want anyone who works with us on the consulting side with the negotiations that hold us accountable. We're going to hold everyone we work with accountable, obviously including the clients too, because there's a big part of the process is how well we work with the clients. So that being said, I want to reiterate on this session tonight that we obviously want to help the clients stay in their homes if possible, first and foremost. But if that's not possible, we want to help them get out of their homes without being financially devastated. And then basically all we ask, as I mentioned earlier, from our clients is prompt response to our paperwork requests. Say yes or no to settlement offers as we bring them. That's basically it. We don't want you contacting the lenders once we engaged it with our services. We'll handle everything from there. We have certain tools we can do to limit the harassing phone calls from lenders, but I'm not going to go into the details of that now. That is on our website with some of the features and the products we offer. In essence, what we're doing is basically saying we're going to handle everything for you. No more sitting in the docs, negotiating with your lender, and trying to navigate the very complicated waters of settlement with your lenders. Let the experts at H4H Consulting handle that for you. We are a very standardized process in how we achieve these things. It's more or less a 3-step process if you're really going to break it down that way. Is we assess your financials, create your plan, and then execute on that plan, which would help lead you to settlement. We have a very good track record of success with our clients. We're very proud of what we do. We post our testimonials online, so please, if you have time, take a look at those. And we want people to, scrutinize us. We want to be held responsible for what we do because we're very proud of our service. Again, last thing before I introduce Cheryl here, I want to take one more opportunity to stress that each of these written action plans we do for our clients is personalized to your specific needs and resources. And again, stressing that sometimes with multiple properties, strategies differ with each property. And in essence, lastly, we try to take the stress and hassle and confusion out of the process and let our clients go back to leading a normal life, which is Really, it goes without saying that's kind of an understated goal with trying to deal with these situations on your own. With that being said, I am done with our portion here with Hope for Homers Consulting. We do have our information here on the website here for you, and that's under the Contact Us Now. I'll be posting this back up at the end of the session here, but we'll be done in promptly 30 minutes from beginning to end. So just for those who have a busy night ahead of you, we will not be going beyond that. Again, here's our address and our phone number, but with that being said, I want to introduce Cheryl Johnson from Mason Title. They are located up in Wesley Chapel. They have multiple offices, but the office that she's out of here, which I'm pointing to now on screen, is actually the New Tampa office at 27544 Cashford Circle in Suite 101 in Wesley Chapel. Their information's up there. What tonight's session is about is getting best practices for short sales and what you can do to improve your efficiencies on that, whether you're being a homeowner trying to do it themselves, whether you're a real estate agent, or whether or not you're in the business, you're just trying to get some additional knowledge on that. I feel very comfortable that with what we offer here over at H4H Consulting and with experts over there at Cheryl Johnson at Mason Title, I feel very good that we have a very good idea of what we're doing on these short sales. So I'll let Cheryl take it over from here. But before I do that, I've been working with Cheryl Johnson for a while now, and obviously her staff over there at Mason Title. And it's very rare in today's day and age. It's a commodity, a precious commodity, and when you can find people that you can work with, that you can trust and rely on, and it's not just something you say to be nice and courteous, that is an honest statement from me that they do a very good job of communication. They know what they're talking about, and we work very, very well together with that. With that being said, I will introduce Cheryl Johnson. Cheryl.
Hi, good evening. I'm Cheryl Johnson. I'm with Mason Title. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in the real estate business for just a little over 22 years. I was actually a practicing realtor for about 11 years and then decided to go into the title end of the business for the last 11 years. And I've seen a lot of markets over the last 22 years, but this last 3 to 4 years has really been something that none of us have seen in forever, actually. What I do is I do the short sale process, and a little while ago, Chris and I got together one day and had a meeting, and we talked with each other, and we shared our processes with each other. And we together have really come up with a fantastic system to streamline this short sale process and make it work more quickly and efficiently for the homeowner and for realtors also. So tonight what I wanted to do was to go over the process of short sales and how they work and the documents that are going to be required from the lender. The main portion of this is document collection. And the documents we do have available, you can email H4H Consulting, or have we posted them?
We can go ahead. We'll have them posted.
We're going to have them posted also for your availability also. But some of the documents that are really, really important that I have a lot of questions on is mainly there is a financial affidavit that everybody's got to fill out for their short sale. We have one posted in our package, and the homeowner has to be, it's showing now, and the homeowner has to be very, very specific on this document. A lot of times we will have people, they'll just,
I don't mean, and for those people out there, Cheryl, I noticed the PDF is showing upside down, so I do apologize for that. Those viewing online, well, the basic point of what she's going to be going over is the important thing on the filling out of these documents, what they are. We'll have them posted again online, available at request. But the important thing is just try to work with the side view at this point.
Okay, but I did want to go over a few things on this financial affidavit. A lot of times one of the things that holds us back is that this thing has not been filled out correctly or in enough detail. And you can use this one. A lot of times the lenders have their own. We also have those available depending on who your mortgage is with, whether it be SunTrust, Bank of America, or what have you. A lot of them are developing their own financial form, which we do have available. But mainly what I wanted to point out is that you need to be as specific as possible on these short sales. You have to let the lender know what your hardship is. It has to be a valid hardship. It can't just be that you've decided your house isn't worth what you owe and you want to sell it. You've got to have some type of financial hardship. And they're going to look at this financial affidavit when you fill it out, and they're going to make sure that you're in the negative each month. So you want to think of each and everything that you can think of to get on there, whether it's dry cleaning, cell phone, cable. A lot of people are afraid to put all of their expenses on here because they think that maybe the lender is going to say, oh, you don't deserve a cell phone, you don't deserve to have cable or what have you, but they want to know why you can't afford your mortgage payment, why you need to do a short sale. So you really, really, really need to be specific. And I think this is probably the form that really stumps everybody the most. They get to this form and they just don't know how in-depth to fill it out. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that is probably the most important form when we're doing a short sale. But what we do is when we know that somebody wants to do a short sale after they've spoken with Chris and he's consulted them, they've decided that that's the route that they want to take, he will get with me. Being the title company, we do a title search on the property and see what kind of problems we might have, whether you have HOA liens or if there's maybe an open mortgage that hasn't been closed out or what have you. We will do a title search on the property, and then we'll start with our document collection, which are the documents that are showing up on the screen. And Chris will have already talked with the client. He will have already collected all of these documents, which is really, really great. This saves us a lot of time from having to call the customer. He just has it all ready for us. And then he does go ahead and give us updates every 30 days on certain documents that the lender's going to require. But we will need a signed authorization that gives me and my associates over at Mason Title authorization to talk to the lender and to work with them on the short sale process. We also have a do not call form that you can fill out if you do not want to be bothered by the lender, and I believe Chris has some tools on that also that are even better than this form. Even though we fill out this form, it doesn't mean that the lender is always going to listen to us, but we do have it, and a lot of times it will direct the calls to us so that you guys can quit getting the harassing calls. Another very important form that we need is a hardship letter, and believe it or not, they do prefer handwritten hardship letters. There's actually going to be a person read this letter, so you really need to write it just like you're writing to a person. Just don't say, oh, I lost my job, can't afford my mortgage payment, please accept my short sale. As much detail as you can give them. You know, you lost your job and you've held on as long as you can, you've drained your 401. I mean, you really, really, really need to make it a good hardship letter because somebody is going to read this. It's not just going to get slipped into a package that nobody sees. So you need to spend a little bit of time on that hardship letter. Another thing that they're going to ask for are your last 2 pay stubs. A lot of people don't normally save their pay stubs, so if you're thinking about doing a short sale, you definitely need to be saving those at all times. They're going to ask for your last 2 pay stubs, and then throughout the process, they may ask for even newer or more recent pay stubs.
And I hate to interrupt again one more time. I see a few people have come on here after we started. I do want to remind you that we will have a question and answer session the last 10 minutes of this meeting. So again, the last 10 minutes will be open for questions. So if you want to email us, or we're going to open up the speakers for those because we have a few people by phone on here too. So there is a chat function on there that you can actually text us, text, I guess is the best way to say it, us questions as we go through this process. So again, I'll let Cheryl go back to what she's saying.
Okay. And anyway, we were talking about pay stubs. They are going to ask for the a minimum of the last 2 pay stubs from the date that we submit this short sale package. The financial statement, which I've already talked about. And they're going to need your last 2 months of bank statements. And if you have a savings account, they're going to want to see those statements. Checking account, as many accounts that you might have, they're going to want to see all of those. And we will need the last 2 months, and then you need to save them therefore after, and you'll be submitting those to Chris, and Chris will submit those every month that he gets them so that we're current when the lender's ready and asks for the most current docs. We do have a couple of other documents in there, the foreclosure disclosure and the alternatives to foreclosure. It's basically an FYI form for the customer explaining different alternatives besides the short sale, foreclosure, and what have you. It doesn't really pertain too much to what we're submitting to the lender. It's more knowledge for the customer. Another thing that they're going to need is a listing agreement if you're listed with a realtor. You're going to need a copy of that listing agreement. You're going to need a copy of the sales contract. You're going to need a settlement statement, which is what the title company, what I would prepare, that shows the fees and how much the lender is going to net from the sale. And you're going to need a pre-approval letter from your buyer or a proof of funds from your buyer if they're paying cash. So all of these documents have to be collected. The good thing is with Chris at H4H Consulting, they do all of this for us. It makes it very, very smooth. They've already met with the customer. They've decided what the best angle is for the customer. And if it's a short sale, of course, then he and I get together and work on the short sale together. What happens after we get all of the documents is we submit this to the lender. There's usually a special format. They want it submitted in a way that they like. We send it over to them, and then we start calling once a week for updates. And as we get the updates, they may not have anything going on for a couple of weeks, or they may have a lot going on, or they may need some more information. But we work closely with Chris on our updates, and he works closely with the customers and keeps them informed as to what's going on. Once we get an offer or a counter from the lender, we do bring that to Chris, and he will go over that with the customer and decide if that's the best thing that the customer needs to accept, or if possibly they may want to make their own counter, or if they want to turn it down. But he will get with the customer. They will decide what the best thing is for the customer, and then they will get back to me, and I will get with the lender. And usually we all come to a meeting of terms, and we do end up with an acceptance letter that will actually bring us to closing, usually within 30 to 45 days. So the whole process from the beginning of the short sale submission to getting the approval letter is usually about 60 to 90 days. It seems lately the lenders are getting a little quicker. They've hired more employees, so we're actually seeing some turnaround in 30 to 45 days. But on average, it is about 60 to 90 days, and that's about it.
Okay, all right. Well, Cheryl, what I want to do here is I want to cover a few things that you have mentioned on your talking points. But a few things that I want to clear up is on the hardship letter, for example. Again, this is best practices. And my viewpoint, and obviously you have your own on this, but hardship letters are required. My viewpoint is they can only hurt you, not help you. So you need to be very careful on how you structure your hardship. Less is more sometimes, so you want to be careful on that. There's things you can give away on your situation that they might try to take advantage of, and I'm not going to get any more specific than that. One other key point to this is your financials, and obviously everyone has their financial statement is what they refer to. Now, your financial statement is the most important document. It's your affidavit of what your assets, income, liabilities, everything is to the lenders. That's what they're making their decisions based off of. So how you structure your financials, not to be obvious, is critical to your submission. You get basically one chance to submit your financials to a lender, and maybe if you're lucky you get twice, but at the end of the day you usually get once. So it's the important part of the process is up front on how those things are structured, and I mean there's a lot of different things that come up. I mean I've seen couples put down, family of 4 put $100 down for food, and I don't know what they're eating each month, but.
Well, the good thing is, Chris, though, you usually meet with the customer with their forms, and you're basically helping them out. So that's what I really like about working with your company too.
Well, that's the thing where I do want to stress that we're getting to the point in this process with this industry that we're getting most of the listings out, at least they're here locally, are inundated with distressed properties, short sales. I think the statistics from NAR was recently, as of last quarter, around 60 to 66%. I don't remember the exact number, were distressed properties. And my feeling is it's probably actually a little higher than that, probably a little over 70%. So 7 out of 10 listings in this area are distressed, whether it be short sale, REO, you name it, it's a distressed property. So getting a handle on this, embracing the dysfunctionality is crucial to getting a successful short sale process. But at this point in time, what I would like to do is open up the phone lines here and the chat sessions for those people who want to ask their questions right now. And we don't typically get many people asking questions throughout this, but everyone gets a little gun shy. So we're going to go ahead and open it right now for those people to go ahead and ask their questions right now. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it now. All right, just as I figured there's a few people out there that I see are on that aren't asking any questions, but I do have a couple ones that were emailed here, but I want to go over those with you. The first one is, if I'm reading this right, what's the #1 reason for a turn down on a short sale? And I guess we'll maybe do these questions that you answer your version, and if I think it needs to be added, I'll go ahead and add to it. So what do you think the #1 reason for a turn down on a short sale is?
Well, I will tell you, I've been doing this almost 4 years, and basically I hardly ever don't have one that cannot come to approval. If there's a situation, it's typically a second mortgage that will cause the problem as far as the short sale not being accepted. When you have a second mortgage with a different company than your first mortgage, a lot of times the first mortgage will offer so much that's allowed to be paid to the second mortgage. Typically it's between $3,000 to $5,000. A lot of times the second mortgage may want more money, and the seller may not have it, and the buyer may not have it, and the realtors may not want to give it up. So if I ever have one fall through, it's typically because of the amount that the second mortgage wants on the approval.
Yeah, and that's it on a processing side. I would definitely agree that when you get also MI companies on what's a mortgage insurance company, well, what is that? Well, most times you don't know. People know about private mortgage insurance. When you open up a loan, if it's over 80% loan to value, there's a third-party entity that has insurance that the lender's taken out for themselves. Sometimes people are aware of that on the front end, obviously, when they take out the loan, because they have to pay PMI insurance as a fee. But many don't realize on the back end, you don't know if they have a back end MI policy on until you actually submit in the offer. So you just don't know with the back end numbers, and they can create a lot of difficulties. I would consider them kind of like a second mortgage holder.
Right, right. And sometimes they will want cash brought to closing. The mortgage company may say, let's use Bank of America. A lot of theirs have MI. They'll say, okay, we will accept this amount, and they are netting that amount, and everything's great. But they bring it over to the MI company for approval, and the MI company wants $5,000 brought to cash, $5,000 cash brought to closing. So sometimes the seller does not have that, and that can create a problem also. So definitely MI companies can be a problem.
Well, the one thing before I move on to the next question is that I will say that I feel my #1 reason for turn downs, in my opinion, is probably the fact that it takes so darn long to get your turn down, to get your short sale process, that your buyer moves on to another property because they have such a plethora of choices to work with. And depending on how the offer is written, there's a lot of times where you can the lender requires it most times that they can entertain multiple offers. So you may have your offer up there, but someone comes in the back end and comes in and offers a higher offer to you, you might be out of luck on that one. So again, it's I see the turn times as being the number one reason on this, because if you don't happen to be a property that's a low baller type property that a cash investor is going to make an offer on, I would say probably 1 out of 20 properties that I come across my desk are probably suitable. A cash investor is going to make a real offer on. Other than that, you're on to the normal marketplace. So it's important that you get these things done efficiently, quickly, and have someone who knows what they're doing structure these deals for you and make sure they stay on top of these things. So next question that I have submitted in was interesting, I guess. How do you work together? I guess it's for both of us, Cheryl. How do we work together on short sales, and who negotiates? And I'll let you start on that one.
Well, I kind of explained a little bit of what we do. Chris will usually consult with the customer, figure out what the best answer is to their situation. Of course, if they go to short sale, I'm going to step in and help with that process, and I'm going to be working very closely with the lender until we get our offer from the lender or a counter offer from the lender. As a title company, I'm not really supposed to be negotiating with the customer, which I don't. We pass all the information over to H4H Consulting, which is an attorney-backed firm, and they do take care of negotiating that with the customer, deciding if they want to accept the offer or if they want to counter back with the lender. And once that's decided, it comes back to me. So you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very important question, because there's a lot of regulations out there. If you're not aware of it, there is, on who can negotiate and what type of companies are out there. So it's a very important part of your decision-making process is obviously whom you work with. For example, there's short sale companies out there. As I mentioned before, we're an attorney-backed consulting firm. I have my real estate license and my mortgage broker license. You have to have your mortgage broker license in order to be able to go ahead and negotiate on these properties, number one. Number two, a lot of those short sale companies, I call it the competition out there. They're not that many, but those out there, there are other real estate agents who actually run these short sale companies. Well, one thing is they ask them, well, how do you negotiate with the lenders? And they say they don't negotiate with the lenders. They file the paperwork, as Mason Title would be, up to the lenders, and get a response back from the lender. Then I said, well, what do you do with that response? What do you do? Well, we give the information over to the homeowner and let them make their own decision. So I don't know how you separate at that point in time processing versus negotiation, but it's a very complicated marketplace, and to sit there and put everything back on the homeowner to decide whether or not they should take this offer. For example, very good, and I'll make it a quick one. A very quick example is a client I had is living in North Carolina, has had a property down here in Wesley Chapel. They were looking at a $200,000 deficiency on the current offer that they had at the time. I inherited a real estate agent already listing that property, so I finished off the process with them. We worked together on it, and Chase Bank came back and said, hey, we want you for this offer. We want either $20,000 cash to close, or we won't waive deficiency. We'll let the short sale go through. So the client would be on the hook for $200,000 deficiency judgment. The real estate agent said, I think this is the best deal we're going to get. I think we should tell the client to take it. Now, whether they didn't know any better or whether they were chasing the commission, I'm not going to make that opinion. But the point is, I put a kibosh to that right away. That wasn't going to happen. We went back to the lender, and wouldn't you know it, within 30 days, by the way, the client had about $1,000 to $2,000 to their name cash, so the $20,000 cash close wasn't going to happen. We got a full waiver of deficiency for the $200,000, and on top of that, we were able to find an exception in the IRS clause for to get them out of the tax implications on the settlement of the debt. So if they didn't work with me or someone like me, they would be financially devastated if they just listened to that decision. So you got to be very careful of whom you're working with and what type of advice you're getting, because the negotiations is a skill set. It's not a formality at the end. It's really not that easy. So there's all things that apply: cash, out of pocket, personal note. knowing what a good offer is and where you should stick to your guns on are important things. So,
and the realtors need to realize they can work with you too. You don't just work with the sellers, you work with the realtors too, and it's best that they have a consulting firm involved just as much as a title company.
It's a liability issue for them, and a lot of attorneys are going out there trying to work with the, other real estate brokerages out there, and because it's a liability, because you have a couple agents out there negotiating these things or whatever, processing / negotiating these things, and a client makes a bad decision, they get a $200,000 deficient judgment, they may come back and sue you at some point down the road saying, hey, this guy or girl is representing me, and guess what? That goes back to them, but it goes back to their broker too, because they're under his license. So it's a very, very sticky situation, so you want to be careful, again, on who you work with. We have a few more minutes here. I'll let you know. We had another question is time frames. I think we've addressed this, but time frames, how long, and who's the easiest to work with? Who do we like best, Cheryl? Who do you like best?
I can tell you who I don't like. But
be nice.
Well, actually, you know, and I don't even know should I name names here, but
it's okay. We'll erase it.
BOA used to be the worst. They have a fantastic system that they put in place called the Equator Program, and it seems to be moving a lot faster, so I can't say that they're the worst. Usually your better banks are the smaller branches. The credit unions, small banks, local banks, they usually don't have to go through a process from A to Z that the other ones go through, and they usually go to one person who makes that decision, and it usually happens fairly quickly. But your larger banks are usually your slower banks. Your private banks, smaller banks are usually your quicker banks.
I'm not as political as diplomatic as she is. I'll be blunt. The Equator system, it's an online server, Bank of America, where you can actually upload docs to them, and there's no losing docs. That's why it goes quicker. There's no disputing it. They outsourced a vendor company called Equator to process that. They're the only ones that are using it now, but I know Wells Fargo just moved to it, I believe, too.
GMAC moved to it, and NationStar.
So they're all starting to move to it, but Bank of America was the first one out there to get that done, and everyone else is kind of catching on. But my personal opinion, Bank of America, depending on the type of loan that you have, they may be quicker on the processing side, but they take a hard line on the negotiations on the back end of that. So they are very tight in waiving deficiencies, very difficult. So you have to be careful on how you position it. You know,
and that's another thing about having us work for them, for anyone, whether it be a realtor or the seller. We've been doing this for a long time. We know who does what. We know what their tendencies are and what they look at. So it's really, really important that they have people like us to back them up on these things.
You know, my internal goal on when I get if it turns out to be that there's a short sale, and that's the plan we're going on, of course, from the time I get an offer in hand to get, my internal goal is 25 business days. But I'll be honest, if I'm getting that, I'm probably doing cartwheels, but I'm still shooting for it. Realistically, you're probably like, as she's saying, calendar days. I'm talking business days, but calendar days, I would say probably closer to 40 to 50 business days is kind of where this is all kind of where the sweet spot is typically in getting final approval on these things. Again, who is the easiest to work with? There is no real easy one. SunTrust is slow to begin with, but they're actually pretty favorable on the terms on the back end. So we could go on this for like 10 minutes and go each one. But
and quite frankly, it also depends on who answers the phone that day.
Yeah, who the negotiator is on that file.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, we have if we don't hear from anyone out there, we do have our last question for the evening, and it's a very general one here. What's the key to a short sale success? And I know we discussed a lot. It's kind of almost summarizing what we discussed already online. What do you, I guess, Cheryl, think about it for a second. What do you think would be the number one reason to get a short sale success?
I think that the document collection and the seller's willingness to do things when we ask very quickly in a very quick time frame, and follow-up. you've got to have the follow-up with the banks, or they will just set your file aside and not do anything until you start bothering about them. So if you start calling every week and you follow up and you push them, it usually is a success.
Well, that mine's. I'm going to kind of add to that. It's critical how you structure your financials. I can't stress that enough. You have to have an understanding of where you're coming from and what they're going to ask for on that. So structuring your financials is critical, because people just, if they don't get the proper advice, they just hem and haw through these things, and a number, and you could probably attest to this, a number of these financial statements will come back with multiple blank categories.
Exactly. They're
like
only
entertainment blank, and like, you know, some of these other things, but they take that stuff to heart. So you have to be very careful on how you structure that. There's certain assets they will ask you for, certain ones they won't. So structuring your financials is number one. Number two is knowing what a good settlement is. And what I mean by that is, if you have a fair market value offer, or within a range of that, one, you need to be aware of it. And when you come back and they counteroffer, and usually counteroffer is usually very high on the initial counteroffer on a lot of these lenders, you have to know what your litmus test, your Mendoza line, for lack of a better term, is on these things. And you have to be not afraid to stick to it, because you may think that's the best offer, but little do you know, hey, you might even get the wrong negotiator. For example, we have just a real recent one I've been working with even today, fresh in my head, is we had an offer there as a fair market value, and they went ahead and countered us at $25,000 higher than what the value was, which this is a small number. And I realized as soon as they made their counteroffer that there's no way they actually physically went out to this property and looked at it. And there's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to go into that. But I just knew that from their counteroffer. There's just no way, basis of reality, that they knew what they were talking about. So we had, for a number of weeks, had to put together pictures, the repair estimates, different things you can do to counter back that. And we had to go to upper management. Guess what? We went ahead. We got it resolved. We got them to come back down to reality. But if you don't know what you're doing and how to do it, you are definitely at a detriment, because a lot of people out there are there to schlep up an offer, hope it sticks like spaghetti, and if it doesn't stick, oh well, move on to the next one. We are fighters. We know what we're doing. That does not happen here. I do not like losing. I'll tell you that right now. And Cheryl can probably maybe attest to that.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm the same way. I don't have many deals that I lose. So.
Exactly. So other than that, if we don't have any other questions this evening, I do want to go back and show, excuse me, let me get out of that. I want to go ahead and show the contact information for Cheryl Johnson. Again, this is Mason Title. Their office location, you can read that, 27544 Cashford Circle, Suite 101, Wesley Chapel, 33544, and their phone number is 813-973-7319. So for those of you online viewing this, you can see this. For those not, this will be recorded if you haven't written down this number. This will be up on my website within the next 2 weeks under live chat section. We have a whole archive library of prior live chats on different subject matters. Every few weeks or so, we're going to have new sessions come out, and different experts like Cheryl will come out and discuss certain topics to try to add value to you, the public out there. And but again, Cheryl, I want to thank you for coming tonight. You've been very helpful, very knowledgeable. I want to stress that we are Hope for Homeowners Consulting. Again, my name is Chris Sommer, the Managing Director. Our address is up on the screen, 4006 South McDill Avenue, Tampa. It's Deep South Tampa. Our 1-800-604-0266, or you can email us here directly at info@4hconsulting.com. But please go online and take a look at our website. We've got a lot of good information out there. We set it to be educational, informational. So please do your homework when you're deciding on what you want to do with your home. We believe you should get your answers up front, and you should have a good outline of what's going to happen to you, what the implications would be. There's no guessing.
Don't go into it blindly.
They'll go into it blindly. So I want to thank you for your time. For those attending with us tonight, please keep us in mind if you have any additional questions, family, friends, or anyone you want to just have them call and ask us some questions. We'd be more than happy to do that for them, obviously at no cost there. And other than that, you guys have a great evening, and I thank you for your time. And remember, Hope for Homeowners Consulting, we're charting your course. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.